come on, Craig, you are an adult. There's no reason for your hands to get like this every time you paint a bike. You have a box of gloves, you could just use the gloves. Just use the gloves.
Well, as you can see, this is going to be a rather messy one. But before I go into talking about what's going on there, some housekeeping. Number one, hello to the new 600 subscribers I've had this week. Generally, that's not happened so far with this channel. My channel has taken quite some time to get to where it is. It's grown naturally and slowly, which has been very good so far. I drop a video about a hard rock, which if you haven't seen it yet, join some people there who quite enjoyed it and like the bike. Since I made that video, I've had 600 new subscribers, and that's probably one of my fastest growing videos to date as well, so happy days. But we don't just do bike builds around here, we also paint some and then build them. So we do big bike builds just that include paint. But before we get into the actual video itself, I wanted to talk about this comment here. It says about the fact that I sometimes wear my hat the other way around, or in their word, the wrong way around, like the Americans do, which is a weird comment to make. Sorry about that. It's very strange when people comment about my appearance when this is a channel about bikes and building bikes, but whatever, we'll move past that bit. The interesting part was about the fact they quite enjoyed the build, but they weren't a massive fan of the tag style art, and they much preferred the better stuff. I don't know what the better stuff means, so today we're going to focus on the better stuff and make some art.
Well then, this is the bike in question. This is my Kona UTE. This is basically the slightly shorter version of the UTE. I picked it up from a subscriber in the end, which was kind of crazy, small world and all that, off Facebook Marketplace, and it's been used to basically ferry his kids around. They went camping on it, they did all sorts of amazing things. I was super keen to get one of these for doing pretty much the same thing, although it does need a little bit of love. If you haven't seen the first 2 videos I think I've done on this now, or definitely one video of the actual teardown, I'll link that down below. There's also a video about me actually removing the paint, which was reasonably easily with one of the techniques I've used. But this is the bike, and we do now need to paint it. But before we do that,
I actually asked you guys in a previous video about what colours I should paint it. The only kind of thing that I said was the fact that I will probably be using it mainly for commuting with my kids, and then just take them for rides and kind of adventures and days out and whatever else we kind of choose to do on it. Tons of you said something that I never even thought of. I think I mentioned that I was thinking maybe doing like a bit of a polished look on it, some black, like some kind of stealthy kind of thing, something kind of really kind of low key. But nearly everybody that made a suggestion said something about being it really bright and it standing out so people can see you, and most importantly cars can see you, and so on. And I thought that was a really amazing idea. I don't know why I didn't think of that myself. And it's why I asked you guys these questions. But the more I kind of looked into it, the more I kind of went through what paint I had and kind of what I could do. A video that Toasty made some time ago on his Alpine Stars came into my head, and I couldn't not think about it at all. It's this one here. It has that kind of block in the middle where it's kind of polished aluminium, and I wanted a piece of that. So that's what we're going for. So before we go down the paint, we do need to do a little bit of polishing, which turns out I really hated. It really takes ages.
So the key element to this is time, and that's pretty much what I hated about it. It took ages, but I started off by using Scotch pad. This is 500, and then I did 600 and 800 over time. Later on in this process, I did find that actually wetting the Scotch pads actually did help a little bit. It kind of made it a little bit more kind of easier to glide across, but also kind of like, I think it cuts in a little bit better when it's got a little bit of water on there. Might have just made that up, but it definitely makes it makes a difference when it's wet. I don't know why. Next was wet and dry with sandpaper. This one, I can't remember exactly. I think I went up to like 5,000. Believe it or not, the bigger the number, the finer the sandpaper. So that is the way around you want to do it. If you started doing this with 80 grit sandpaper, you're stuffed. One thing I would say is just make sure you clean it between grits and different sandpapers and different techniques. I was doing it at one point and I was like, this doesn't seem to make a difference, but it's because it's dirty. Like, you are actually removing some of the metal, a very fine amount of it, so it will over time get dirtier and dirtier. So clean it between stages is the best way to look at it. But you can see here I'm actually starting to notice a bit of shine and it's starting to spur me on. So you'll get to this point and you'll want to keep doing it. But then we get to the big stuff, the metal polish. This is Auto Sol. You've probably seen all your favourite YouTubers use it at some point, whether it be cranks, bolts, or whatever they've used it on. This one's going to be used on the frame to give it that kind of final polish. This does have a kind of a gritty substance to it, but it's way finer than any sandpaper, so it is still going to pull some of that metal off, but the teeniest bit. So it's more about kind of getting that mirror shine out of it, and it really works. Now, before paints, you need to prep and clean. I've been using some isopropyl alcohol. It sounds like I've been drinking some of this isopropyl alcohol. I can't say it very well, but any sort of like high concentrate alcohol is really good, especially after you've been sanding, or even if you're sanding between coats, things like that. It really helps with like getting any dust and dirt and grease that's on it. It just gets all of it off. This bottle was like £10. Like the one I had before that was like, it lasted a couple of years. You don't use it often in this sort of trade, but it's super easy. It's super useful to have for these moments. Then after that is masking. On the fork it was pretty simple. I just had to mask around the actual crown race. I couldn't get this thing off. I'd like to change the headset completely at some point, but at this stage we'll just mask it. Pro tip for bolt holes are Q-tips. Generally not used ones, clean ones are much better, but I just basically pop this in the hole like that and it stops any paint getting into the actual bolt, the threads. So yeah, works really easily. Really easily. Works really well. God, I should stop drinking that isopropyl alcohol. For the primer, I'm using spray.bike frame builders putty. It's really good. Essentially an etch primer, and you can sand it down and it fills in most of the cracks and dents as well. And then for the color, I'm using full dip, which essentially is a wrap spray. You can spray this on and peel it off, which I have tested. I don't have any footage of it, and it does peel off like a elastic film. You can see right up by the brake mounts in the moment that it's quite heavily cut over there. Like I honestly thought it was going to run. This stuff is super forgiving, but it's quite hard to get an even color, or like even color. You have to basically don't spray it like other paint. It's a little bit more tricky, but it does go on pretty well. And yeah, very pink. I then thought I should probably do something about the polish part of the bike. I didn't fully think this through, and you'll see more as we go along that I didn't fully think this through, but I basically used some bin bags, wrapped it up to stop the polish bit getting any overspray or paint on it. People have asked me in the past what's the best way to kind of hang a bike, especially if you're painting in the back garden, and I use an old broomstick in an old stand and put it through the headset, the head tube like this, and just beware that it can sometimes flop around. As soon as it's settled and safe, you can paint. Every time you order a sticker, I use my printer to print out a printer or postage label, and there's a bit of A5 piece of paper left over after that. I keep all those and use them to recycle or use them for stuff like this. So I roll up a piece of paper and stuff it in the seat tube and then one in the BB, and that saves me having to just use a waste piece of paper for this part of the masking. And if you're interested in buying some stickers, you can buy them from saveoldbikes.com. Stuff like this one, which is perfect for me today because I am, oh my god, being a backyard mechanic. Now, I kind of did a thing that I promised you guys I'd stop doing, but I got a little bit excited and forgot to film some stuff, and I painted some of the bike. I've decided to go for this kind of half and half type look. So the fork is pink, completely pink, but I am going to paint it yellow or this day green underneath at the bottom part, and then the pink will be over the top part of this, kind of, well, like this, like you can see. I wasn't mad about the way it was coming out, so this is where the art comes into it. I had this pretty dodgy nozzle looking bottle of or can of spray.bike, the fluoro pink, and just started kind of like spitting it on essentially and kind of giving it a bit of texture. The way that the kind of the full dip stuff was blending was kind of like, well, it wasn't blending, so I essentially used some spray.bike to kind of fill in those gaps. At this point I was starting to feel like, because it started looking a bit cloudy, like it was like some sort of galaxy, and I know a lot of this isn't showing up on camera at all, so I kind of decided to go with it and try and dust some more colours on. The dusting was way more of a happy slap than a technique as such, but as you can see, it was coming out kind of cool. I really liked the effect and the texture it was creating. I definitely think at this point the happy slap technique, is what we'll call it from now on, was going quite well, and it was good, but the child in me kind of got a little bit carried away, and I figured, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, and started spraying it on my hands. This is the point that a normal person would walk away and put some gloves, as in from the box of gloves that you have in the shed to do this sort of thing with. But I just got too excited and then made a complete mess of my hand. But I liked the way the bike was coming out. So at this point I was feeling pretty chuffed. Everything was going swimmingly, and then we removed the bin bags. The way that it actually looked, the kind of chrome polished aluminium with this fluoro paint job, blown away, looked very cool. But I didn't fully think through the masking, and I'll tell you why. Ignore the thumb in the image right now, I don't know what I'm doing, but the plan originally was to essentially blend in the colours. You can see where it's kind of ripped here, that's fine. I was going to kind of like smooth the edge and then blend in with some paint. Well, I've run out of paint. This took up all the paint I had left, and now I'm left with that. Oh yeah, also ignore the fingernails, but there's also, I didn't mask where the bottle holder goes. There's a little bit of paint from the original paint there. I don't know. It's not my smoothest paint job I've ever done, especially with the chrome bit. So there's still some work to do, essentially. But it's looking very, very close to what I imagined. There's the finger again. So yeah, we're not quite finished yet. We need to try and work out exactly what we're going to do with that blend. I could just buy some paint and do exactly what I plan to do and kind of match it up. But I don't like buying paint, especially when I've already had a load of paint. I already had paint, so I don't want to buy more paint. I have just spotted these Cobra spray paint. Someone gave me these. They used them for a project and then didn't use them again. But there's an orange. I wonder if an orange would kind of, if I added some orange splatter to parts of it and kind of maybe some orange detailing, I could then get away with using orange to do a blend, or find some pink and use this fluorescent yellow and then kind of match it up the way it should be. I don't know. Maybe
have a little think about it and pop it in the comments below if you've got an idea. Do I just pull my finger out my butt and buy some more paint, or can I get creative with this blend? I don't know yet. But no matter what I decide to do, the next video will be probably just a quick kind of like, this is what I did to blend, lacquer, finish the frame, and then start the build. The actual parts that need for building this bike I do have. Some of them are on another bike which I need to dismantle. I want to steal some parts from that bike because that bike's not really been ridden that much. We'll talk about that in a future video. And yeah, get this build going. If you enjoy this kind of content and enjoy watching the guy start a project and still not finish it, I should suggest you probably subscribe to the channel, because these videos are made weekly and I have 2 fresh bike builds coming very soon. You enjoyed the hard rock. There's another hard rock coming. Yes, some of you commented, where's the pink one? I have a pink and yellow one as well that I'm about to build. So plenty of stuff coming. So if you are into this sort of stuff, hit the subscribe button there. And if you can't wait till next week, why don't you hit this one here? This one here is a particularly good one.